Good evening, friends. Thank you for inviting me into your house or your office. It is Wednesday night, the 20th of October, 2021. I'm Pastor Steve Altide here at Park Street Christian Church in El Dorado Springs, Missouri. You're either watching on our YouTube channel or our Facebook page. But I want to share a little bit tonight about the topic of how God's ways are not our ways. And I'm going to focus on Elijah. It's easy to understand why Elijah got discouraged back in his day. Evil appeared to prevail and righteousness seemed to be ineffectual. He had battled the evil King Ahab and the wicked Queen Jezebel for 2 decades. 2 decades. Even the thrilling victory over the false prophets at Mount Carmel seemed to result in almost no change. Jezebel still ruled and put a contract out on Elijah's life. So he ran and hid in fear. And he whined, "I've had enough, Lord, just take my life. I'm not any better than my ancestors." Well, it's easy for us to get discouraged too. Satan seems to be winning. The church seems unable to do anything about it. I read last month or so about how Harvard University's new chief chaplain is an atheist. Yep, you heard me right. Harvard's chief chaplain is an atheist. The school's motto is truth for Christ and his church. That's Harvard's motto. Yet their chaplain today doesn't even believe in God. So what's happened to us? Well, Romans 1:22 kind of sums it up well. Thinking ourselves to be wise, we have become fools. It's discouraging. Moral values continue to spiral downward. Good is called evil and evil is called good. We're still struggling with the COVID virus and the defeat that we experienced in Afghanistan, the botched withdrawal, the loss of 13 military personnel needlessly, the aftermath of hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, and fires. We read about those kinds of things almost every day in our news, in our national news here in this country alone, besides what's going on in the rest of the world. So some discouragement is understandable. That's why Christians need to be constantly reminded that God is going to intervene one day in a rather dramatic way. Ahab and Jezebel died in disgrace, but Elijah was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind. So when we get discouraged, we need to keep remembering that God is still in control. We're going to celebrate with him in the end. Now, I do confess that although I don't struggle with doubt, I've always found it relatively easy to believe. Like Elijah, I still sometimes battle discouragement. And I'll be the first to admit the last year and 3 quarters have probably been the most discouraging times in my ministry. The last 36 years that I've been preaching, this month marks 36 years. I don't fully understand how God works or why he seems slow to respond. Yet the Bible insists God's ways are not our ways. In fact, his ways are different from ours, just as the heavens are higher above the earth, according to Psalm 103, verse 11. One virtue that seems to please the Lord more than any other is faith, faith that trusts him even when we don't fully understand his ways. Can we continue to trust and follow him even though we don't know where he's leading? Well, I hope so. Our daily challenge is to walk by faith and not by sight, as we're admonished by Paul in 2 Corinthians 5, verse 7. Through all of this, I've witnessed some really good things happening around the world and in our country. I wish I had time to tell you about all the positives of the last few weeks or few months alone. There's still a lot of uncertainties right now. God knows what he's doing. We trust he's going to bring beauty from ashes. We can still believe that all things work together for good, even if we, like Elijah, have to wait for the fiery chariot to swing low and carry us home. But we need to focus on the good and the eternal and keep looking up to Jesus every day, every night, and knowing that God is ultimately in control. It looked like Ahab and Jezebel were in control to Elijah, I'm sure, but their evil reign was temporary. God was in complete control then, and he is now. God has all of us in the palm of his hand. Yet for now, we just have to trust him regardless of how bleak the news is, how corrupt the politicians are, and the garbage that goes down almost every day in Washington, D.C. We got to keep praying for our leaders desperately. We got to keep praying for revival, examining our own hearts and lives. I promise you that God is true to his word. He promises that he'll be true to his word. And God always keeps his promises. So when we can't see his hand working, we trust his heart. Remember the old song that said, "O soul, are you weary and troubled? No light in the darkness you see." There's light for a look at the Savior and life more abundant and free. Turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. His word shall not fail you, he promised. Believe him and all will be well. Then go to a world that is dying, his perfect salvation to tell. Turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. God bless you, friends, as you keep looking up to Jesus Christ and trust in him. I hope the rest of your week is good for you and uneventful in the bad. Good night.